Thank you for joining us. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes.
Okay, I can see Brian McLean saying hi.
Yes, everyone is welcome in the chat to submit where you're joining us from, and then the program will start in about 2 minutes.
I see a Brewster there. That means woman who brews. A man who brews is brewer. I do names and stuff like that. McLean, probably Irish.
We'll be starting in about 1 minute, so please enter in the chat where you're joining us from. Let's go ahead and get started. Greetings and welcome to the March 2026 National University Speaker Series. My name is Dr. Nancy Roland Heinrich, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Vice President of Community Engagement for National University. I am proud to be the founder and host of our NU Speaker Series. And since we started in July 2020, we have held over 60 episodes. We have had
Wow.
a wonderful group of presenters on a wide variety of subjects. Please note that all of our past webinars have been recorded and you can listen to prior episodes, and we will post a link in the chat should you like to check those out later. We appreciate everyone joining us today, whether it's your first time participating in the NU Speaker Series or many of you have attended our past sessions. In our audience today, we welcome our alumni, current students, faculty, staff, and many community members who follow our series. National University prides itself on being in and of the community, and we appreciate our virtual audience joining us from throughout the country and abroad. We hope that this next hour will be time well spent with our speaker. I truly believe you will enjoy this opportunity. Just want to share a little bit about National University. We are celebrating our 55th anniversary this November. We were founded in 1971 by a retired U.S. Navy captain, Dr. David Chagos, and the university has had a rich history of providing accessible and relevant higher education programs to meet the needs of non-traditional working and military students. Our mission today is very similar to when it was designed in 1971. We are proud to have 50% of our undergraduate students that are currently military affiliated. So our undergraduate students, almost half, are either active duty veterans or spouses. NU provides academic programs to more than 50,000 students annually, and our students are enrolled in more than 125 different degree programs at the undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral levels. I'm very proud to say our impressive global network has grown to more than 250,000 graduates, including some very distinguished alumni. But at this time, I am ready to introduce today's topic and our speaker. This should be interesting and entertaining as we have the renowned linguist, Dr. Richard Lederer, and today's topic, Jest for the Pun of It. At this time, I would like to say a little bit more about our speaker. He has a very impressive career as an American linguist, author, speaker, and teacher. He is known for his books on the English language and on wordplay, such as puns, oxymorons, and anagrams. He is known as a verbivore and has also been dubbed the Wizard of Idiom, Attila the Pun, and Conan the Grammarian. Dr. Lederer has had a column in the San Diego Union-Tribune for years, Lederer on
Mhm.
language, and he was elected the International Punster of the Year in 1989 and was the 2002 recipient of the Golden Gavel of Toastmasters International. You will find out more about Dr. Richard Lederer throughout the discussion and his presentation. So at this time, I encourage the audience to sit back and enjoy. If you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A. And following the presentation, we will have a moderated discussion. Audience, I hope you are ready to learn and love Richard Lederer and his presentation entitled Just for the Pun of It. Richard, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Dr. Nancy Roland Heinrich, I think the I in a German name like that, and mine is too. So you have a PhD, I have a PhD. We are a paradox, just to start with a little pun right there. Mine changed my life. And everybody out there, great to see you. Notice that the title, Jest for the Pun of It, jest, there's another meaning, just, and pun for fun. And that is what a pun is essentially, if I can, this much verbal meaning crammed into this much space. A pun is basically an exercise in being concise. And we, as Homo sapiens, and we've been around for about 300,000 years, and we are just miracles. How was science not too? Our brains are wired to be able to understand those meanings that all come together, and you're going to get a lot of examples. And one thing, all human beings are alike in that each human being is different from another. So I think that some of you will get all of it, some of you will get some of it, but you have your own uniqueness. In my case, my thing happens to be language. So Richard Lederer here, your fly by the roof of the mouth, user linguist, Attila the pun, Conan the grammarian, and probably the most word-struck, word-besotted, word-bethumped wordaholic you will ever meet. And indeed, I'm writing 14 years now for our Union-Tribune here in San Diego. And some of you may on public radio receive Away with Words. And Charles Harrington Elster of Kensington, right here in San Diego, and I are the co-founders. We're very ably succeeded by Martha and Grant on Away with Words. And yeah, just a minute there. Brian, yeah, Philly, go Eagles. Yeah, West Philly High and Haverford College. Yeah, good. Sorry. I'm just 100% extrovert on Myers-Briggs. You have to understand that. So at any rate, it's quite a legacy. And in a couple of months, I'm going to be 88. And by the way, still playing pickleball 5 times a week. And I will tonight, right after this. I'll start at 6 o'clock. So to take another pun, pickleball has a nice little pun. The nickname for pickleball is crippleball. That's called a double sound pun. We'll get that toward the end, but all I can say is ask the EMTs about crippleball, but so I haven't fallen yet. So let's get right to it. I'm going to give you a little poem, and then we're going to have some examples. And then with my gracious hostesses, um, if anybody out there has a pun that they want to put forward, if I can see that either print, on the screen or whatever, and I will tell you if it is a pun or not.
And Richard,
Oh,
I can share those if people put them in the Q&A if they don't have a question
good.
and they'd like to share a
Or if they
pun for
do.
you to analyze.
So a pun's the highest form of wit. It stimulates the brain a bit. It simply takes a word that's lame and picks one more that sounds the same. So that's a little quatrain. And that is basically what a pun is. This much meaning, sorry, let me try this, because it's backwards, in this much space and in an effort to be funny, because poets do that and often not to be funny, but with a pun, you're trying to be funny. Victor Borge, one of the great punsters, didn't learn English till he was, I think, 14 or 15, spoke Danish first. A pun is the shortest distance between two straight lines. And we're going to start with homographs. However, oh, I do have to say something else for my hostesses. You started very well because when you had up there the description of me or whatever, you did put in the serial comma before the ad. In other words, A comma, B comma, C comma, and D, the comma before the ad. So Nancy et al. Dot. That was a good start. Otherwise, you can get into trouble and it doesn't reflect the cadence of the language. So I'm all for that. So homographic, homo means same, and as in homogeneous or homogeneous, uh, and then graph means writing. So here are a few for you, and then we'll take a little break. And if you either want to come in with a question or with a pun, I will be delighted to address that. Probably the best known, uh, uh, no change in spelling, homographic pun, and we're going to be doing it this weekend, and that is we reset our clock, spring forward, fall back, and obviously there's spring in those single words and fall, but they each have a double meaning. Spring to leap forward, and fall, obviously a season, but also another verb. And we learned that a long time ago. And incidentally, it's daylight saving time. Don't do the gratuitous S. You have to know your S from a hole in the ground. Have you heard about the cross-eyed teacher? She couldn't control her pupils. Now, that etymologically is interesting because you have the double meaning of pupil, obviously, with no change in spelling. So, what the etymologist says to him or herself is, wait a minute, are those two pupils a sheer accident, or are they the same word that then evolved into a second word? And in this case, it's just that. So pupil, Latin, originally meant a little person, a boy or girl in kindergarten in a low grade, uh, pupil. But the Romans noticed that as they gazed into each other's eyes, they saw each other small. So that made pupil also to mean, as in the pun, the aperture in the eye. And that's how we get that. So that is homographic, same writing. This is one of my approaches to language and humor because you need to know the parts, you need to know the classifications, and that helps you to store and to create examples from it. So let's go on to a few others. Some of you may know that I am the most successful breeder of world-class poker players in history. I am the father of Howard, the Professor Lederer, and Annie Duke, the Duchess of Poker, and also the first famous woman in a man's world playing the game of poker, particularly Texas Hold'em. I taught them, and they went on to win a lot of money. So listen now to 5 homographic puns, meaning no change in spelling, but everyone has a double meaning, okay? How is marriage like a deck of cards? Or why is marriage like a deck of cards? Ta-da! You start off with 2 hearts and a diamond. See? Hearts and diamonds have 2 meanings there. 2 hearts and a diamond, and pretty soon you want to grab a club and use a spade to bury the joker. You know, there may be more than microbial life out there in the universe, but they don't do this with language. I can almost guarantee it. Certainly we'll never know in my lifetime and probably in our lifetimes because they're so far away if there's anybody out there, but they can't do this. I can guarantee it. And if you need that pun, just and again, Nancy, doctor, do they have my email address and my website? Have you shared that with them?
We can share that at the end and send that
Good.
to everyone.
Okay. And I'll just say for right now, Richard H. Lederer at gmail.com. You do need the H in the middle, and verbivore.com. Because among other things, you'll see all 566, I think, at this point of my columns on that and my lifelong mission of teachership. So one or two others, so you will get the sense of homographs. Change is inevitable except from a vending machine. And there, of course, the double meaning is change meaning mutability and change meaning pennies, although they're not long for the world now, nickels, dimes, quarters, etc. What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo? Now, for that, you might have to be 60 or older. I'm not sure. A Zippo, is a lighter. You click it and out comes a flame. The difference between a hippo and a Zippo is that a hippo can weigh 4,000 pounds and a Zippo is a little lighter. I'll just give that a minute or two to sink in. So Moses was the first man, Moses from the Bible, in history to use a computer. He downloaded data from the cloud to his tablet. And finally, this one is a little on the edge, but I'm going to give it a try because I'm sure you alumni out there and your alumni association people speak so highly of you, your intelligence, your purpose-driven lives, your curiosity, and all of that, so important for a longer life. But here we go. More than a year ago, Donald Trump was in Butler, Pennsylvania, and what occurred was the first assassination attempt. And a 20-year-old mentally ill kid up on a roof and having a direct beat on the president. Well, there was a lot of criticism about the Secret Service. How could they, first of all, there appeared to be no communication between federal and local law enforcement. So this kid is up there. The ladder is leaning against the wall. They had a rap sheet on him, and that very day he had been behaving erratically and seen behaving. And nonetheless, there he had a direct bead on, at that point, Donald Trump, who had been president and was running to do that again. So there has been an ongoing election about negligence in that area. And the report has just come out, and because I'm also a history nut, I have read the report, and I want to share with you a really damning episode. And in the report, what is mentioned is that a Secret Service agent, man in black, standing in front of the stage to the right, as you're looking at it, as soon as the bullets were fired, this agent started screaming, "Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse." And everybody went, WTH, see, because I know I have to watch my language here. WTH, what the heck are you talking about? Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. And the agent said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just made a stupid mistake. What I was trying to say was Donald Duck, Donald Duck, Donald Duck." So that's that story and another example of a homographic pun. They're a lot of fun. What's the difference between an outlaw and an in-law? And this is going to be just a very small distance between the two meanings, no change in spelling. The difference between an outlaw and an in-law is that an outlaw is wanted. Pregnant pause here, and obviously an in-law isn't wanted. But the two meanings of wanted are slightly different, and that's what creates the laughter. So we are through homographic puns, and Nancy, Lindsay, and so on. If anybody out there wants to ask a question now or provide a pun, and I will analyze it, I'm happy to take that. And if not, I'll move on to homophonic puns. So I will wait till
Okay,
I hear
Richard,
from you.
I do have someone, Barry submitted. If you are from Alaska and you reverse letters when you read, if you don't acknowledge the problem, you may be living in Denali.
Very
Okay.
nice.
Do you like
Right.
that one?
Boy, and Denali is interesting because actually it's letter switching, you see. Uh, and we have fun doing that all the time. And just for fun, all right, I am going to take the word Denali, and obviously the pun is on denial, but it's with a letter switch.
Right.
So if your name, I'm not going to be able to memorize, is Daniel, Daniel, that's an anagram of Denali. So something like an idle lead-in ad line, every one of those lines is taking Daniel or Denali and making it an idle lead-in ad line. Daniel nailed, and I know this is impossible to see, just but I can send this to anybody who wants it. Nailed in deal. See, in deal again has the same letters, i.e., land in Dale, led in a denial, you can see it there, and lie. And if you have the right compartments, you can do this stuff. So that's interesting. That is a combination of letter play and and of course there's another one in Egypt. If you're sailing on the river, you're in the Nile, you see. And this is the glory of being Homo sapiens. Yes, other creatures appear to have language, elephants, whales, uh, apes, and also non-mammals, uh, but they don't do this with it. And the language doesn't keep generating and creating, but we do it. That's what makes us Homo sapiens. Wonderful. Any other puns coming in there, Dr. Nancy?
I'm going to share one other. This is a short one. Santa's helpers are subordinate clauses.
Oh boy, you have to know your grammar. Santa's helpers are subordinate clauses, and that means a clause like an adjective or adverb clause that is subordinate to the independent clauses. And there's their Santa Claus and so on. So Santa and Mrs. Santa are the main clauses, uh, and their children are dependent clauses. And you see what you can do with that. And that is pretty much keeping the spelling the same. So it's pretty homographic. And my God, is anybody teaching grammar anymore? Because I sure did when I was teaching. Very good. Okay, shall I move on
Yeah,
then?
go ahead and move on, and we'll share a few other of the entries later. Thank you.
Okay. So staying with uh, homographs, I am going to, you'll notice I'm not looking at notes. Let me see. I think it looks like I'm kind of glary. That's a little better, I think, huh? Am I okay there, Nancy? My face?
You're looking good.
Okay. Uh, so here we go. I hope most of you have heard of Quasimodo. Not the real Moto, but the Quasimodo. So there's a pun right there. Not the quarterback of Notre Dame, not the halfback of Notre Dame, not the fullback of Notre Dame, but the ta-da, the hunchback of Notre Dame. Thank you, Victor Hugo, Hugo. So Quasimodo, the bell ringer, grows too old to ring the bell. So he puts out an ad in the paper, wanted bell ringer. He opens his door the next day, and on the front stoop is a fellow who has no arms. And before I forget, I don't know if I held this up. Ooh, let me see. Yes. So I am a pungent, and that's called cleaving a word. That's another area of language. So you take a word or words and chop it up. So, for example, if a boy and a girl are amiable together, think of that. He may well wonder, am I able to get her? And this is just the whole treasure chest of language out there. And believe me, it's in my books. Go to the website and you'll see verbivore.com. So Quasimodo opens his door, and there is a fellow with no arms, completely disarming this guy. Quasimodo says, and actually, if you want to try it out there, because I can't see the gallery, the way you make a Quasimodo face is pull down on the outside of your eyes, pull up on your nose, and here's what you get. And you see how absolutely versatile that is. Quasimodo, Phantom of the Opera. See? Quasimodo, Phantom of the Opera. That's all you have to do. So if you've learned nothing else today, you've learned this. And incidentally, for those of you tuned in or are going to tune in, connectivity is one of the essentials for longevity. Connectivity, exercise, diet, and a few other things, and learning all the time. So you are connecting out there and you are learning about ideas in seminars like this. You're doing it right, and you'll probably live to be 100, and that's good because hardly anybody dies after 100. But to get back to Quasimodo. So Quasimodo opens the door, and there's this fellow with no arms, and I can't illustrate that because, I'm sitting down. Quasimodo says, "What? Are you here for the job of bell ringer?" Yes, I am," says the man. And Quasimodo says, "Well, how do you propose to ring the bell when you evince such a prominent lack of appendages in the upper torso area?" "Well, I may have no arms, but I have a very tough forehead. I run at the bell. I strike it with my forehead, and it emits a gorgeous, exquisite, sonorous, beautiful sound. You're hired," says Quasimodo. So the armless man, mounts the obligatory spiral staircase up into the tower, looks at the bell, runs at it. Bong! Gorgeous, exquisite, sonorous, beautiful. But the bell is on a pole, it's on a fulcrum. It swings back, clops him in the head, knocks him out of the tower, and he splats on the cobblestones below. The police come. Mr. Quasimodo, yes. Do you know this man? Yes, I do. He was an employee of mine, and apparently he jumped to a conclusion. You get the pun there. I can almost hear the laughter, but you're all muted. And you see, jump to a conclusion has two meanings with no change in writing. And the police say, "Well, Mr. Quasimodo, can you give us his name?" And Quasi says, "Well, I don't know his name, but his face rings a bell." And again, no change in spelling. So those are homographs. And as I say, Nancy, at any time, question, my pleasure. So let us now go on to for my notes, homophones, and that means same sound but different spelling. So let me go to that. The first one I heard, and you may have, is what's black and white and red all over. And honored alumni and students, and it sounds like a whole bunch of different communities. I I think a number of you okay. Interesting question there. Yeah, okay. And of course, Joanne Maria says newspaper. That's what we started with that interesting word READ, the only verb in the English language that has the same spelling for the present and past, but a different pronunciation. And then we loved it so much that we mentioned, entered a penguin, a blushing zebra, a penguin at Miami Beach, a nun who spilled ketchup on herself, and probably about 10 more, because it was so much woven into the warp and woof of our culture. So think about this. What do you call a naked grizzly? If you want to put an answer up, go ahead. Two words that sound the same but are spelled differently. So I'll give you a chance. Let's see who's first. What do you call a naked grizzly? Yes, thank you. And that's Michelle. Oops, I missed it. Yes, right. And there's Kimberly, a bear. And notice each word is an anagram of the other if you switch the middle too. You're saying, what is this guy, a crazy person? No, this guy has blown up the distance between who he is and what he does. He loves what he does what he loves, and it's language. I was editor-in-chief of my junior high school literary magazine, my high school newspaper. It's who I am. I write, therefore I am. And I just wish that on all of you where it's possible. You do what you're put on this planet to do. So you saw that, a bear. Now we're going to go to a slightly more complex one, and I'm looking for the answers there, okay? What do you call a pony with a sore throat? I'm looking at the a pony with a sore throat. Kimberly, Barry, yep, both got it. A horse, Hoarse, and HORSE. What you're doing is trans-deleting the middle letter. So a horse. So those are puns, uh, and they are homophone, uh, meaning they sound the same, but the spelling is different. So I'm going to give you some more. I'm on a seafood diet. Every time I see food, I eat it. SEA, you see from SEE. Um, have you heard about the successful perfume manufacturer, successful perfume? Her business made a lot of sense. And I want you to think of the three spellings of sense, since you can't call them out here in this symposium. But her business made a lot of sense. Well, she was a perfume manufacturer, so she manufactured SCENTS. She was successful, meaning she made a lot of CENTS, and it was just and appropriate. So she made a lot of it. So it made a lot of SENSE. Boy, very good from Barry Schwartz. Perfume is olfactory. Because darn it, it goes off so quickly because
Because it
what?
comes from an old factory.
Yeah, an old factory. So that's a double sound. We're going to get to that. Ola is changed to old. Incidentally, that kid's a genius. Okay, maybe not a kid anymore. Whatever. So even more complex um, is a a man gave his male offspring a cattle ranch and he named it Focus, capital Focus, because it was the place where the sun's rays meet. And all three of those, depending on the meaning, will change spelling. So it was a cattle ranch. So it's where the sun's SONS rays RAISE meet MEAT, but he called it focus because it's where the sun's that flaming ball up in the sky, SUN apostrophe S RAYS and meet. Yep, and Michelle is very close there. Michelle, I have a female turtle at home here named Michelle, so that's quite a coincidence. Okay. Um, so um, I will, I've got a lot more. Let me just take a look here for a minute. Um, no matter how much you push the envelope, it will remain stationary, and that's the pun with the ERY and the ARY, and just one after the other. Um, So okay. A little pause, and then I'm going to go on to the last category. and that's a bloody cat gory, and that is going to be um, oh, well, let me just think for a minute. No, here's one that I think fits into that category, and that is okay. So just for fun, because this is the year, and I do have a lot of stuff that I just did a talk today on Tales of the President. I've got a lot of history I'd love to share, not this time, but Mount Rushmore, you've all heard of, and you may know that it was basically blasted with dynamite to get the four figures of the presidents. And that work was essentially done in the 1930s. So the point is that for a century ago, Mount Rushmore's natural beauty was without precedence, what you see. And the pun there is something that precedes Precedent and President, very close in sound, but not the same. Okay, so let's move on now. Again, now with Jest for the pun of it, which is the title of this show, Jest for just and pun for fun. So there, the spelling and the sound changes. So let's take a look at some. A good pun is its own reword. So it's changing reward to reword, spelling change, and sound change. I'm an incorrigible punster. Don't encourage me. And you, for the most part, as a human being, Homo sapiens, 300,000 years, probably about 108 billion Homo sapiens who have lived because I love science and anthropology and all that. What do you get when you cross a gorilla with a clay worker? A Harry Potter. So there, the Potter stays the same but goes lowercase, but Harry for Harry makes that work. What do you get when you cross an elephant with a rhinoceros? Um,
Tell us.
Elefino, Elefino. You see, I'm from Australia, you see, down under. What do you call an empty hot dog? A Halloweeny. So there again, the hollow part from Halloweeny, there's a slight change and that makes it double sound. So I have this one memorized. I think the greatest extended double sound pun that there is. Okay. Uh, I assume that most of you have heard of Mahatma Gandhi. And he was an attorney, an anti-colonialist, an activist, and fought against the colonial rule of India. And there are some things about him you may not know, but one of the great figures of the late 19th century. And Barry, you're saying, Mahatma, but I don't see anything else. So whatever, but maybe you know this one. But listen to just every syllable is going to be double sound. So the thing about Mahatma Gandhi, first of all, if you've seen pictures of him, very skinny, very thin. That is because he had a very sparse diet, very sparse, vegetarian and all of that. Another thing about it is that diet gave him very bad breath. And when you see photographs of the Mahatma Gandhi, you nobody is standing near him because his breath was so bad. If there's anybody else in the picture, Gandhi's on one side and everybody else is elsewhere. Also, he never donned sandals, shoes, sneakers, or whatever because he wanted to maintain direct contact with Mother Earth. So the result is, get ready, you have a super calloused, fragile mystic, halitosis. And that, of course, is, the original. And that was not in the book, P.J. Travers, but it was in the movie, the very successful movie. So supercalifragilisticexpialitosis. Um, and so there are some double sounds there. So now, Nancy, we're getting close to the 40. We're very close. I do have one more type of pun I'd like to cover if you feel there's time, and we will
I feel
still,
there's time. Go ahead and cover the last type of
or well,
pun,
not
and then we'll have
another.
a few things to share with you and a few questions.
Okay, so that will take me to about quarter two, and it questions, and then if not, of course, I'm never at a loss for words. But if people have questions about why I am this person, I will be, and anything else about my uh, uh, purpose-driven life, I'm happy to do that. And obviously, questions about language, etymology, why is it called English? Did Shakespeare really write those 154 sonnets, approximately 37 plays, and two epic poems? Any of that stuff, fine. So here we go. And these are called spoonerisms. William Archibald Spooner was a gentleman who entered the earthly stage in London uh, back in, I think, around 1834. And he grew up to be a distinguished professor at the Oxford Yards for 60 years in divinity, philosophy, history, and English, literature, rather. But because of a slight aphasia caused by albinism, he tended to reverse single consonants and consonant blends, and they became known as spoonerisms. That's called an eponym, and it is upon a name. So, for example, today, gerrymander, with what's going on politically in the nation, is a word we use, and that's from Elbridge Gerry, a governor in Massachusetts, who, believe it or not, actually manipulated districts, not because of geographical reality, voting districts, but in order to have his party win. And so Jerry and then a cartoonist added a salamander's body, and we ended up with Gerrymander, which became gerrymander. So a spoonerism is reversing consonants with hilarious results. So to give you two examples, one is he was a devout Anglican, and he went in the church, and a woman was in his usual place in that Anglican church. He approached her and said, "Pardon me, Padam, you are occupying my pie. May I sew you to another sheet?" And you probably, many of you can reverse that because you're human. And that's what we do. That's the way our brains are made. Another time, I'll put my little bottle here and take a sip. He toasted Queen Victoria, the reigning monarch, and said, "Three cheers for our queer old dean." There's the toast. I'm going to do this. And obviously, that's three cheers for our dear old queen. And you are engineered to be able to do that. But some of you will do it better than others because that's the human condition. So I am going to tell you the tarry fail of Prinderella and the sense. And I'll pause between some of the spoonerisms to give you a chance to digest them. So the tarry fail is a fairy tale. Prinderella and the sense is Cinderella and the prince. Once upon a wine, there lived a gritty little pearl. That's pretty little girl. And her name was Cinderella. Cinderella lived with her sticked wet mother and her sugly sisters, and they made her pine all the shots and shans, wean all the clindos, clean all the windows, and do all the wordy dirk around the house. Isn't that a shirty name? Shirty name, dirty shame. We're made to do that. Well, one day the king issued a proclamation, I'm sure you can get that one, that all the eligible girls in the kingdom should come to a Drancy Fest ball, meaning fancy dress ball. Well, Prinderella didn't have a Drancy Fest. All she had was an early drag, such a shirty dame, meaning dirty shame. So off went Prinderella to the Drancy Festival. She had a good time because at the Drancy Festival she met a pransome handsome prince. And they pranced with, and she pranced with that dints all night long. And at the Moke of Strid night, stroke of midnight, Prinderella ran down the Stallis Peps, you know what they are, and she slopped her dripper, meaning she dropped her slipper. My God, slopped her dripper. The older I get, the more I do that myself. Well, the next day, the king issued another proclamation that all the eligible earls in the kingdom should slide on the tripper. Well, Prinderella, sorry, the stick-it wet mother, slide on the tripper, but it didn't it. The three Sugly Ister slide on the tripper, it didn't it, but Prinderella flipped her soot into the tripper. You know what that means, slipped her foot into like the slipper, and it fid it. So Prinderella and the Dinsmut Gary, and they hived lappily ever after, ever laughter. And those are all spoonerisms. Thanks for the time to share that, Dr. Nancy.
I guarantee you that our entire audience has a big smile on their face with that one. That was great.
Thank you.
How
It's
about if
hmm,
I share just a couple of questions
sure.
and a few things?
I'll
So
go
we
with
did
that.
have an early entry where someone was asking about dad jokes that could also include puns to be
Often.
more effective. And the
Yes, although they're
question
supposed
is,
to be bad puns, but yes,
okay, well,
bad
how
puns. Yeah.
how much could someone get away with placing puns and dad jokes in a speech, doing so appropriately so that the speaker is still professional?
I would see dad jokes. Of course, that's a rather new appellation, but I would see that fitting in well with puns and examples of bad puns that are dad jokes. I think that would work. They would be close enough that I think that really would work. Yeah, so that's good.
Okay, here's one that someone entered, and just listen for a moment. I bought some lightweight shirts in Denmark that are very delicate. Wish they weren't so dainty.
And that's a little bit on dainty, Dane with Dani. That's very good.
Dane and then Tee is the way they
Right.
entered it.
Very good. And of course, the Scandinavians have been in the news quite a bit with Greenland. Yes.
Yes. Okay, here's one. A former intelligence officer buddy was hired as a cartoonist. He was a bit snoopy.
Um, Pretty good. And that's a pun on Snoopy the dog and Snoopy the intelligence officer. So
Right.
I think that works in well. Very quickly, just to let you know, Charles Schultz, um, uh, he initially wanted to name that comic strip Lil Folk, L apostrophe L Folk, but because of the popularity of Howdy Doody, it's Howdy Doody time. Nobody out there is going to know this but me. It's Howdy Doody time. Bob Smith and Howdy Do say Howdy Doody you. And Clarabelle, if you didn't know it, uh, Bill Keenan, he became Captain Kangaroo, and they the newspapers wanted it to be Peanuts because of the peanut gallery there. The world's a strange place. Very good. So
It
all of
is.
those
Here's
are
here's
puns.
one. Can February March question mark
Nice.
response no, but April May.
Oh, very nice. And that's a good set of puns. February, remember both R's from the goddess Februa. Uh, and yes, can March as a verb, so that's kind of a grammatical pun. And April, May, and you could probably go through the whole alphabet. Very nicely done. Absolutely. Incidentally, you know, we're going to have three Friday the 13th this year, and one of them we've had, and because there are 28 days in February, then you have to have it in the following year because it's divisible by seven. So when you start the new year, you're going to get the same numbers in the same days. And then we have a third, triskaidekaphobia, we call that. Nancy, great. And if we have more time, any questions they have, my
All
pleasure.
right. I'm going to, one more that was um, written in the Q&A. When chemists die, they bury them.
Yes, very nice.
End
If you
quote.
happen to know the elements, very elemental, very nice. And when let me just see, music writers die, they decompose, and there's just a whole series of those when they die. They're good fun.
I'll share one more of those and then I have some questions for you. This one, a depraved poet was paid per verse.
Wow, very nice. That is charading a word. You see, the taking perverse and separating it, and that is just a lot of fun. An overgrown mustache, mustache. They're called charade words. Must ache if it's overgrown. So you're taking, or even the word abracadabra, if you chop it up and charade it, it's a bra, cad, a bra. And then once you start looking at words like that, they will dance before your eyes. So, Nancy, questions or question or whatever, go ahead.
All right, here's one that just was entered. The bicycle can't stand on its own
Because it's
because it is tired.
too tired. Right. And
So,
there you see that the tired is the same spelling, but the two is different, TWO and TOO. So that would be a homophonic pun. Very good. A classic and very good taste from the questioner.
all right. Well, this is going to be everybody's interested in a little bit more about you. So, you were one of the founders of A Way with Words.
Yes.
How did that start, and do you miss it?
Ah, okay. Um, All right, I have to go back a little bit in history, but I think that question is worth some real time here. Folks, one of the things I've learned at this age and younger is that you lose all the points in life you don't play, knock and it shall be opened unto you. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease if you're squeaking reasonably. So let me tell you this story that will lead into that. I wrote a book, my biggest seller, and you'll see my books on my site, Verbivore, verbivore.com. Carnivores eat meat and herbivores, you'd have to aspirate the H plants and vegetables, and verbivores eat words, and sometimes I eat my own words. But at any rate, I came out with a book called The Gift of Age, larger type and obviously about growing older and very optimistically so. By the way, I love being 88. I love the fate control, the extra respect. You become your best self or your worst self. I think I'm becoming my best self. It's not that bad for you younger folks. So, at any rate, the Union-Tribune in 1912 started healthy, successful rather, aging at the old town and at the town and country, which was the second largest facility to our convention center. So I called them. Why not? What have I got to lose? And I said, I've just come out with this book on aging, and I'd love to speak to your constituency, your attendees. My God, just absolutely perfect. They said, sorry, you pay to play. You're not a sponsor. Only sponsors do that. So I said, so it goes, worth a try, say la vie and cosas de la vida. And the next year they added a Sunday. I immediately got on the horn and say, hey, Rich Lederer again, I bet you don't have enough sponsors for Sunday. We don't. Yeah, we'll put you in at 11 a.m. on Sunday. So this was 2013 now. So I said, great. And I said, you do have a book exhibit area? Yes. And I said, you would have a table for me? Yes. And then I asked a question that changed my life. And here was the question. Well, although I'm speaking on Sunday, and I'm obviously going to display my books that day, may I do that on Saturday? And they said, sure, we have the table for you. Go ahead. So 9 a.m., I'm all set with books. 2 hours later, coming over from the UT booth, the Union Tribune, is a 50-ish slim guy, comes over. Are you Dr. Lederer? Yeah, last time I checked, I said, well, I'm Jeff Light. I say, Jeff, I know you. You're the
I
publisher
know
of
Jeff
the
Light.
UT. And he said, why aren't you writing for us? And Nancy, I fixed him with a steely gaze. And I said, Jeff, you haven't asked me. That's why I'm not writing for you. I'd love to write for you. And he said, let's have dinner, a lunch rather, in 2 weeks. But what I had noticed when I was at the book table on Sunday is I didn't see him at his booth. So at the luncheon, so he offered me the job. And at the luncheon, I said, Jeff, I have to ask you this. Uh, you weren't there on Sunday. He said, no, I was just there on Saturday. That was the big day. I said, Jeff, if I hadn't been at my booth on Saturday as a result of that question I just mentioned, would you have hired me to write the column? He said, no, I wouldn't have, but I saw you and I got the idea and I came over. So you see my point. First of all, it pays pretty well. Second, I pick up a lot of fans. And third, I would have written at least 10 fewer books because having to do 750 words week after week, after a few months, you start saying, gee, I think there's a book in this. I'm starting to see a pattern. Without that discipline, I would not have done this because of that question. So now we get to a way with words. So that was earlier. My wife Simone and I came from New Hampshire to here in 1997, and were very quickly um, snatched up by KPBS to do away with words. And that was Charles Harrington Elster and Richard Lederer, the co-founders. And uh, and so they brought us, Charlie and me, not I, don't hypercorrect, for an interview. And they ushered Charlie back into the interview room. But me, they took one look at me and said, Dr. Lederer, you have the perfect face for radio. And I got the job. And just terrific. And again, just being in the right place. Luck is the convergence of hard work and opportunity. And genes are great if you win the gene lottery, but you have to have drive behind it to make those genes blossom. And so that's a little bit on those life lessons. And now very ably succeeded by Martha and Grant, and it's just a wonderful life.
Well, you've had just a delightful career with a lot of diversity in what done, and you've had the ability to touch so many people and bring so many smiles to their face. And I know we're close to being out of time here, and I'm sure our audience would love to have you come back. I know that you're doing a new show about America's 250th birthday, and that you have your presentation you do on the president. So maybe one of those other
And
topics, and we can bring you back at
right.
some
And I
point.
do want to say I'll be at Trinity Theater the weekend of, I think it's the 14th and 5th, Saturday, Sunday, 2 p.m. And I'll be doing this just for the fun of it. So you needn't come to that. But if you have enjoyed this, tell your friends. And if you have had a terrible time today, tell your enemies to come and support their local theater. And I have to say, Nancy, I have had a wonderful afternoon. Now, this one wasn't it, but I've had a wonderful afternoon. I just wanted you to
I'm,
know.
I'm glad you have. I have one true false question for you, and then I need to give a few closing remarks. So, your good friend Jose Cruz said
Yes,
to ask you this. It's a true or false question. Is it true that you don't forget anything?
the answer is in terms of language, yes, it's an eidetic memory. And while I go, where the heck are my glasses? Or did I do that stretch exercise? But in terms of language and to some extent history, I'm incapable of forgetting. So it goes. And I
It
do have
is a
to say,
gift, and
Nancy,
I wish that we all had that.
Well, I have to tell you, Nancy, a number of people who have that kill themselves. It's too much. But I am so connected with the universe and I adore people so much. And I do a lot of sports that it's just in the background working. And I do have to say this. So, folks out there, and I'll want to head count Nancy after because I can't tell. But out there, I just want to say to you, of all the Zooms that I have ever done, and I have to do the one pun, and that is I find that people don't laugh as much when I'm doing Zooming. Apparently, I can't be remotely funny, and that would be a single song. But I just have to say, of all the Zooms I've ever done, thanks to you, Nancy, and your colleagues, Lindsay, and so on, Heather, I have to say, of all the audiences I have ever entertained, this one today has been the most recent. That's it.
Indeed. All right. Well, Richard, I'm going to just give a few closing announcements. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. People really enjoyed it, and I'd love to have you come back at some point, another time. I know you have a wonderful audience in the San Diego area and kind of throughout the country. So let's go to the announcements. And just wanted to share that we love to see our alumni, staff, and faculty volunteer. And we do have a day of service coming up at
Wow.
the Jacobs and Cushman Food Bank on Saturday, March 21st. You can check out how to sign up. I think they'll put it in the chat. We've got Navigator Networking coming up. Our next speaker series will be on trust and inspired leadership, unlocking potential in people and
Wow.
organizations. We're looking forward to that one, and I believe that'll be with Candace Singh. We've got an alumni association meeting, and then a speaker series on what nobody told you about retirement. Now, I don't know that that's going to be quite as entertaining, Richard, as you have been, but I guarantee to you that, people will learn a lot. That's important at any
Hmm.
stage in life. But we really appreciate everyone joining us this evening. We certainly appreciate listening to Dr. Richard Lederer. I had shared with Richard that I believe I first heard him back in the 80s. And we have a lot of friends in common over the years. So
Hmm.
greatly appreciate that Drew Schlossberg had recommended you, and I'm sorry that he was not able to join us this evening. He's at spring training in Arizona, but so glad that you were able to join us and just to be able to capture a little bit of your topic. And I think people learned a lot, and they certainly had some great laughs. So thank you so much. Appreciate Heather and Lindsay for helping us and putting on the NU Speaker Series. Bless you all and have a good evening. Thank you.
Nancy, it looked to me like you had at least four of these seminars in March. Am I correct? Or was it April? You flashed
No,
them up there.
two in March because we didn't have one in January. Yes.
And but it looked like there were a bunch together. I mean, it just shows how productive you are. Um,
We try to find many ways to engage with our alumni and students because they're all over the country, and they enjoy taking time out of their busy calendars to listen to people like you and learn new things and just enjoy it. And thanks. You've gotten a lot of thank yous
oh
in the
dear.
chat, and people really appreciate your time and your expertise. So thank you so
At the
much, Dr.
drop of a
Lederer.
request, I would return uh, cyberly or in the flesh.
Or in a heartbeat.
Yeah, in a heartbeat, of course. In a New York minute, we could go on forever. But
Yes,
this
we
is a
could.
nice reunion for us, and just make my day. And now I go to my third activity, pickleball.
Go play pickleball. Stay young. Love it. Okay, thank you, everybody. Good night.